This week, we played Helldivers 2 in the first of 2 demos for one of the worst named video games of all time, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. Then we dive into the unethical way the military is influencing your kids. Abiotic Factor takes us back to the heyday of the Half-Life era, and Larian reminds us they made a great game and continue to make it greater. Lastly, we discuss Millenia, a game that might give Civ a run for its money.
Hi, I'm Nick, and I've had the bones of a thing in my head for a while. Now I just need to put flesh on it.
Hi, I'm Josh, and is Roblox the battlefield of the 21st century?
I'm Andy. This is Video Game Tango. Hey!
Bye.
I'm holding it in.
You were C. Come
It's
on.
right there.
I can't hold it in anymore.
Josh is not
Happy
only holding it
Valentine's Day. Not for you when you
yeah.
hear this. It'll be Friday. But for us when we're recording
on. They
it,
could be listening to it in the future.
I mean, happy Valentine's.
Yeah,
Yeah, you know.
it could be exactly a year from today.
2025ers. How's COVID 2025 going for you?
No, if it is exactly a year from today, it will not be because it's a leap year, dog. It's a
Who
leap
said
year.
exactly?
Listen,
We're an approximate
future.
podcast.
That's true. We are an approximate podcast.
I
We
have
get
it
started
on-
approximately at some time on Wednesday most of the time.
I have it on good authority that we're going to be the only podcast allowed in 2025.
I sure hope so.
Yep. It's going to revolutionize what we do here.
Dude, if we are, then we're getting that cool 250 million that Joe Rogan just got.
Yeah, Drogan's going to go over to like, I don't know, the Metacast.
Yeah.
He's going to plug in his alpha brain to his chimpanzee muscle.
Spotify gave him $250 million to renew his contract, and they're allowing him to stream on multiple platforms again.
Yeah, that tells you how much money he makes them.
I know that's so crazy. That's crazy for just like a talk show, man.
Well, it's
About apes and aliens and
I mean, it's new radio.
yeah,
That's what it is.
yeah, it's true.
We've rediscovered radio,
That's
except in the form of middle-aged white men who don't have anything better to do.
amen, brother. Well, speaking of things that are no better than to do, Nick.
Fascist violence.
Yes.
I hate to open with that, but that's what we're going to talk about for a minute. I have bitten the bullet. The high-speed, armor-piercing, fin-stabilized, discarding Sable bullet that is Helldivers 2. Having been a fan of the first one, having just enough expendable cash to pick it up, and having my brother having it gifted to him, meant that I had no excuse not to play this game. It might have come across in podcasts, or if you know me personally, I love cooperative games. I love cooperative games even more where you get to kill giant bugs. I don't like giant bugs. I love tiny bugs, less oxygen, normal-sized bugs. This game, when it works, is a absolute fantastic hoot. It's one of those games where I will gutturally laugh and cackle and cheer unconsciously at things going on. It's that much fun. The game loop is solid. The progression so far has been solid. I love everything about it. It is wild and crazy and chaotic. It is very much in the veins of obviously the original Helldivers, but also Deep Rock Galactic or Starship Troopers Extermination. Even something maybe similar like Division, the sense of squatting up as a group, going doing an objective and leaving. If you have not heard of Helldivers, first or the second, we have some footage playing. But the idea is very akin to Starship Troopers. Earth is now super Earth. The government is now the managed democracy. And everyone has been completely propagandized to believe in the military might of Earth and its human citizens. And we are currently fighting a war against not only the Terminids, giant Starship Troopers as bugs, but these automatons that are essentially, what's the Cybertronic guy from Cyberpunk?
RoboCop.
No, from Cyberpunk. Cuttable fuck-a-meat guy.
Oh,
It's been more than 10
Adam
seconds. since
Cyborg?
anything. You fight robots with chainsaws for hands and AT-STs with laser turrets. It is fantastic. Friendly fire abounds. The game specifically gives you, I think, about 5 lives per player every match because it knows you're going to die. It is expected, it is planned for, and it is almost completely hilarious every time. It is rare that you're not laughing at what just happened because a grenade or a salvo or some kind of ordnance went off and you just happen to be standing too close and got a little overpressure. This current release, Helldivers 2, as opposed to their first one, which was top-down, is fully 3D over the shoulder. You can aim down sights if that's something you wish to do, up to 4 players. And they have managed to find a very amazing balance between the fiction fitting the gameplay loop and the gameplay loop being good. This is from Arrowhead Game Studios, which you may recognize if you're a nerd like me as the people who made Magicka way back in the year 4, which was a fantastic game, just as chaotic. But I don't really know where to start. For one, this game looks amazing, and I don't have the best PC. I was surprised that it defaulted to ultra settings, and I almost inherently just decided to drop them down. I didn't need to. The gameplay loop itself, when you land on a planet, you're going and doing objectives, your ship, your destroyer, your space cruiser, you can see it in the sky, barely past the atmosphere. And when you call down an orbital 300 millimeter, artillery strike, you can see them coming from the ship and hitting. Not only that, when you're sitting in the hub world waiting to do a mission, you can look out the window and you can see the orbital columns and the other players dropping from the ship to the planet in real time. If there's 50,000 people on a planet, you can see the action happening in real time as that happens. The game has a few different meta progressions. It's got the obvious, get resources to spend to unlock new equipment and new armor and whatnot. But more importantly, in my opinion, it has actual meta progression as far as the story goes. We are trying to take back planets. You are trying to win over these planets so they can set up a defense field to keep aliens from taking them over. And every mission that is completed for every player progresses a planet from 0% to 100% by 0.0001%, I believe. And you can see that in real time as a planet is being won by the players or lost because it goes back down. I logged out one night at 64%. It was at 70% the next day. But then, the servers get hit and we get better. We actually managed to take over Angels, whatever the hell. And we moved on to a forest planet now, which is very cool. Just so many cool things going for this game. It does have some downsides. One, the multiplayer is strained to the teeth. Too little butter over too much bread. It is, on average for me, to have at least 1 to 4 disconnects during a session. I've yet to have a crash to desktop. They have fixed a few of those. They just released a patch this morning. But when the servers get heavy or when Steam is overloaded, connecting to friends, staying in a mission, you could do 20 minutes in a mission and then get disconnected right at the end, which really sucks. Those are growing pains that hopefully and likely will be fixed. There is a good amount to talk about if you really want to about the cheat protection they use, N-Guard or something like that. I've looked into it. I have a terrible memory. It's like most other cheat protections, a kernel-based cheat protection that can cause a lot of problems, especially some people with the 7000 series. What is it, Radeon? Is that the 7000 series?
Yep.
Reporting a lot of crashes. Some of them may be hearsay, but maybe not, even bricked their computers based off this cheat protection. There was enough response on the Steam forums, of all places where devs never talk, a response from the developer. They gave kind of a PR response. But a lot of people are not buying the game or refunding it because of this cheat protection. It's empirical, but personally, I haven't noticed any major problems other than the obvious multiplayer crashes, which brand new game, heavily being played. I'm not surprised.
Yeah.
But yeah, that is something to be concerned about and is a legitimate concern. If you know much about, I think it was N-Guard and Weapon Guard, something like that. It's one of the kernel level cheat protections. It's got a sordid history. So why are they using it? Realistically, XYZ, they'll say more than likely in ways to protect their monetization. This game, like every other fucking game now, does have a battle pass. It is a good battle pass. And I use that phrase not lightly. The best battle pass is in Deep Rock Galactic. Yeah. Nothing's ever going to beat that. This one, you have a free battle pass track. You earn credits in game. You spend them to unlock new cosmetics and new weapons. It's not fast, but it's also not slow. You also earn the freemium currency in game at quite a high rate. I think it's $13 for 2,000 freemium currency. And if you spend your time combing every map for it, you can earn 50 freemium currency per mission, which at most is going to take you half an hour. So you could realistically, if you're doing the math funky, earn about $1 of freemium currency per mission.
Okay.
So that's pretty nice. Reasonably,
Okay.
you really don't have to spend it. It's still BAFAS. It's still a system.
Still part of the problem.
Yeah.
It's still part of the
Yeah.
problem. I don't like it, but it's
Not
not,
as
as
egregious as it
egregious
could be.
as others.
Sure.
Unfortunately, they have used the framework of the Fortnite Battle Pass, where you have tiers and there's like 6 items per tier, and you have to spend so many points to unlock the next tier. And it's like, I don't really want to be forced to buy 7 capes just to get to the next tier.
Right.
Right. But it's fast. Well, it's not fast, but it's not slow. I have not noticed any problem with it. There's been some minor bugs. Someone just found out yesterday that the armor rating is currently not working, so the heavy armors are not applying. But again, growing pains. It's an obvious bug. It'll be fixed. They just released a patch. So yeah, there are qualms with the game. That said, if you get over all the ephemeral shit, the game itself, when you're playing, is a absolute blast. The guns feel amazing. The machine guns feel amazing. They do this really cool thing, which is the bullets don't come out of your gun at an angle like every other fucking modern shooter when you're running or sprinting. What happens is you have your reticle is a little tiny circle, and it lags given like the weight of the weapon or if you're running. So when I'm carrying a heavy machine gun and I'm trying to laterally spray fire, I can feel it dragging as I'm, waving it back and forth.
So does your reticle drags like?
Yeah, there
as
is
opposed to where
2
you're
horizontal lines giving you like an idea of how quickly you're moving and your accuracy, but the bullets still come out straight. It's just you get to see the mouth of your gun on screen as a little hollow circle. And then if you so wish, like using sniper rifles, which are effective in the game, especially against the robots, you can ADS and you get your whole normal like Mars sight or red dot scope or whatnot. One nice thing is every gun has a mildly unique setting system. For example, like your pistol, you can set the flashlight to be always on or only on when you're ADSing. The machine guns, you can actually set their rate of fire from about half up to 125%, which gives you a lot more recoil, right? But you can slow it down for when you're trying to like double tap or triple tap at a distance, or people are up close, you can just full spray it. I cannot express how much
That's kind of cool
ordnance there is in this game. Air strikes, orbital strikes, auto mortars, drone backpacks that follow you around and shoot people. I recently unlocked crawling artillery, so I can call down a crawling artillery and just follow behind it, picking off the stragglers. It just works its way forward through a base, completely engulfing my screen in flame. It's been a blast.
That's pretty dope.
Yeah, I really, really like it. I think once they get over the initial multiplayer patch, day 0 pains of all the disconnections and dropped things, it's fun. It does have the same fascist vibe as Starship Troopers, whereas Starship Troopers has a bit of weight to it in that it's like supposed to be ironic. It's pretty basic. You're just super America. This is the cheeseburger war. Your character is not the Doom guy, silent protagonist. If you hold down your machine gun for more than 5 seconds, you can be assured your character is going to yell out, "Get some," or "Taste freedom," which is fun, right? But like, it's something else. One fun little thing they did bring over from Helldivers, which I think evolved out of Magicka's spell system, is calling in all your ordnance, whether they're called stratagems or reinforcing a player that's died, is a little arrow mini game. Up,
Series
down,
of
left,
hotkeys.
right, left, up to call in this, or down, left, up to call in that.
That's kind of fun.
And you do learn them pretty quick. The problem is when you're surrounded and school bus sized bugs spitting gas at you and you're trying to call in a reinforcement to bring in a guy that died, it can get hectic. And as far as I'm aware, I haven't yet to do it, but I believe you can actually call in people who are actively looking for a group. There's like a cavalry or reinforcement option where you can throw down a ping I'll have to look more into that. But the game has very well tied in its fiction, its lore into the gameplay itself through those methods. You really do feel like you're in a battlefield due to how the airplanes and the orbital strikes work. You're not just some soldier on the ground. You're part of a larger force.
Yeah.
And it is a lot of fun. Plus, you get capes. Edna mode would be pissed at how many capes there are in this game. And there's full cape physics. If you rotate just correctly enough in your ship, you can get it to just kind of circle behind you. And then it gets wrapped up in your face.
Is it like Team Fortress hats? Electric Boogaloo?
Not quite as ridiculous.
Okay.
But yeah, it is a lot of fun. There's fist bumping and head butting and saluting. And the saluting's just flipping someone off, but with your finger down. Just,
Nice.
It's a good salute.
Yeah.
That is a good salute.
I mean, it's not that far away from
No,
the other
it's not.
salute.
Yes. Yeah, for sure.
But I think that's intended.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, with the themes that they throw out there, for sure. Yeah.
If you do pick it up, be it aware, unless you are a rare specimen, you are going to die in the tutorial. That is expected. The game is trying to warn you that, like, dying is built into the game loop of this game. You do not expect to make it all the way through even 5% of your missions without dying at least once. But yeah, it's good. Everything around the game, I mean, it gets worse as you get more and more meta, but the gameplay loop itself is fantastic. Highly recommend at least checking out a Let's Play or something if you're curious on YouTube.
Right on.
Yeah, it definitely looks like a bit of fun.
Well, real quick, I'm going to cut this from the podcast. Hey, Stinker, thank you for the fat host. Really appreciate you for the raid.
Yeah, thank you very
I
much.
didn't even see it.
Thank you guys for coming in. If you enjoy the podcast, make sure you follow. We do this live every Wednesday. But if you're not interested in watching live, you can always check it out on YouTube after the fact. We also podcast like the regular audio podcast places, all of them. Check out videogametango.com if you want links for more. So thank you guys. Thank you, Steen, for the host. Really appreciate you. Love you. Hope you're having fun when the new digs. Hope you had a good stream. So yeah, I'm glad to have you guys here. Happy to have you with us. We do a proper podcast, so we usually have like a big preamble where we talk with chat before the podcast starts, and then once the recording starts, we usually interact less with the chat. But if you do want to chime in with something topical, we do riff with chat as far as like being on point for discussion. So if you have something to contribute, please do, and yeah, we'll talk about it on the podcast. So just want to let you guys know all that. And thank you again, Stinker. Appreciate you.
I love the name.
Yeah, right. She's awesome. Love her to death. All right. Now we can get back into the show. So a little bit of seamless. So, hey, Josh, speaking of fascism.
Yeah. As it turns out,
Where's this podcast going?
there is a small, dark room in Memphis, Tennessee, filled with computer towers and military personnel and joysticks and keyboards, and they're playing Fortnite with your kids. Yeah, no, it turned weird. It turned weird.
It got dark real quick.
It got dark real quick. I'm actually talking about the United States Navy esports team.
I don't think I like that any better.
I know, right? So in 2018, the United States Navy formed an esports team. Now, being that we are 35-year-old men, we are no stranger to the military trying to convince us to join it using video games.
Oh, yeah.
We all played America's Army. Now, it led to a lot of fun times, I still use the phrase threckendary, but...
Fuck tertiary,
yeah,
okay?
It's not, it's threckendary. But it is a disturbing fact of life that Gen Z, Gen Alpha, they view video games as their medium of entertainment, something that we would say would like be TV for us growing up. Still loved video games, but like TV was the thing that had 100% access. Well, now it's games that has the access all the time, and it's bigger than movies, bigger than TV, bigger than both of them. So the fact that the Navy is devoting nearly 5% of its marketing shares to video games. That's $4 million that it spent last year, and it's going to spend more this year, trying to convince, like playing video games with kids and trying to they're setting up for future recruits. The military, the armed services, is at an all-time low since we've gone a volunteer. Like, we've reached an all-time low since Vietnam of people wanting to be in the military. And because it really sucks to go to get college money to pay for some fucking oil barons' fields. It sucks, and nobody wants to do it anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So now they're striking in at a new fucking way, and it feels a little bit gross, because there's I'm going to give an example that a veteran here is giving. He's talking about playing Fortnite. It's on Twitch, but they're not talking but you're not getting a real life military experience. If you play Call of Duty and you're 13 years old and you're playing with some dudes from the Navy, and these are recruiters, it's their job to give you all the best points of the Navy and none of the war crimes.
Yep.
The simple fact is you're going to go somewhere and you're going to probably have to shoot somebody. That's when a kid rolls up to you in Call of Duty, you just roll by in the Humvee or whatever. In the Army, you probably shoot that kid. The reality is not being forced in here, and these are young, impressionable minds that don't have the wherewithal to fight the propaganda off, and it's scary to think about. I mean, the Navy, the Army, the Marines,
recruiters having
access to kids at 13.
It's already egregious enough to have them recruiting at high schools.
Yeah.
The idea that they're just sneakily playing Fortnite with fucking minors. Ugh.
Right. So here's a direct quote from a veteran. He's like, I was in a country fighting a population that lives on less than $1 a day with gigantic weapons and armored vehicles, says a former U.S. Army intelligence analyst. And if I'm patrolling in Afghanistan with my assault rifle and a kid gets too close, he pauses. That's not what they put in the advertisements. That's not what they talk about on the Twitch streams. Yeah. You're not getting reality. That's reality from a vet who was apparently faced with a difficult decision in Afghanistan. So that's where you're going to go. You're going to go to Afghanistan. You're going to go to some terrible some place where we have business being. But
there's only the one skin.
Yeah.
You just have the one military skin.
Yeah,
you don't get to be a stack of pancakes.
No, man, boy, that's not a battle pass you want to be a part of.
Nobody in the military is Goku.
Yeah.
But that's just crazy to think about. And so if the Navy's spending $5 million a year, the Army's spending $5 million a year. Mm-hmm. The Air Force is spending $5 million a year. And it's taking I don't know, it's just the military moving into spaces that I don't think it should be recruiting from. Wait until there's a fully formed brain behind the person you're trying to convince to sign up. That, I don't know. It feels unethical as hell to me. That's what I wanted to talk about there.
Yeah.
It's a little nuts. I mean, you think of a bunch of dudes in the Navy in a room in Memphis, you think they're flying drones, but no, they're playing Fortnite with your kids.
No, they're playing no-build threes.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, big time. and there's two, and only one of those three is your child. Mm-hmm. Well, speaking of dystopian futures, I got my hands.
Happy podcast for you here this week.
It's a fun one. Happy Valentine's Day.
I got my hands on the Final Fantasy VII Rebirth demo. So it's the first part of 2 demos. The second one's going to be coming out on the 21st of this month.
Sounds like a birth defect, doesn't it? It's
I know.
I got my Rebirth demo, but it's going to clear up after the first 6 months.
Sounds like something you don't want to talk about on Valentine's Day.
Yeah, that is one of my only complaints about this game is the title. Rebirth was a bad idea. So, I obviously a big fan of Final Fantasy VII. I was a big fan of the remake, although my first playthrough wasn't my favorite thing in the world. My second playthrough, I enjoyed it so much more. Rebirth Getting into the demo, the only thing that I didn't like at the beginning was the fact that my stuff doesn't carry over from the previous game.
Oh.
It is unfortunate.
Now, do you think that's just going to be for the demo, or that will be for the game proper?
They've confirmed that that's going to be for the game proper. So all the stuff that you got in Remake is not going to carry over, unfortunately, into Rebirth, because they are essentially separating the games. There is going to be new materia. They've made changes to the current materia that was in Remake that's going into Rebirth. So they are effectively treating them as separate games based on changes made in the game. Not only that, but they've also changed the battle system a little bit. So it's very familiar to the previous battle system in Remake and Intergrade, but it has a little bit more. It's a little bit more matured. We kind of got the beginnings of this battle system in Final Fantasy 15. We got some more of it in Remake. We got a little bit more of a similar battle system in 16, and they really do seem to be like honing in this battle system as time progresses. And it does keep getting better.
Now, so is it still like roughly the same? The same bones of the battle system that it keeps making improvements, kind of like I'm gonna pull from like Mass Effect, how like each game the battle system got better. It doesn't matter what the story was doing, the battle system got better, right?
No, it's definitely going to be familiar.
Okay.
And like all of the buttons that you had previously are still there. They do the same thing. They have just added a lot more.
Okay.
So along with being able to play each character, because you can change between characters in battle, whether your party composition be Cloud, Tifa, Barrett, or Cloud, Ares, Red 13.
He's a cat.
He is a cat. Not only do they have their own separate abilities and you can control them separately, they also have synergy abilities. So depending on the party that you have, those characters will have synergy abilities with each other. When you fill your ATB gauge, which is just, it takes time, and the more you hit something and the better combos that you get, the faster your ATB gauge fills. That allows you to do things like combos with other characters, use magic, use special abilities, etc. So the combat it's very familiar, but they've expanded upon it in quite a few ways. One of those things being the synergy. My demonstration of it was I had synergy abilities that I could use at any time as long as I had ATB filled with Cloud and Sephiroth. They did a couple unique, moves. Those combinations were R1 and triangle or R1 and square. It does look like as you level, you will be getting more synergy abilities with your party members because there is space in that area in the menus.
Okay, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it looks like they have quite a few more button combinations that they could combine there to do synergy abilities. So the synergy abilities are cool, but you also get synergy like limit breaks also. So if you've been using your synergy abilities and getting combo points, filling up your ATB gauge, eventually you will get like effectively a limit break between two characters, which is really cool. Starts a pretty like prolonged cutscene, similar to the cutscenes that you get when you summon or when you use a summon in Final Fantasy VII Remake. And yeah, it's super cool. It certainly felt like, so the unfortunate thing about Rebirth is you don't carry over your materia, your weapons that you gained, etc., from the previous game, which by the end, like at the beginning of Remake, it feels like you're just mashing square a lot, right? So you go from mashing square a lot, learning how to duck, learning how to roll, learning how to dodge, progressively getting more and more abilities as you go. Your weapons, once you level your weapons all the way up, you learn their abilities permanently. So you get this compounding amount, like never-ending amount of abilities, never-ending amount of materia. By the time you finish the game, there are so many options in combat. Fortunately, Remake did a really good job of introducing those throughout the game, so it wasn't like severe overload. And I think Rebirth is aiming to do the same thing. The unfortunate side effect of that is experienced players like myself. I've been through Remake several times. It definitely felt a little bit like going back to the drawing board and smashing Square over and over again. So that's an unfortunate thing. Yeah, so it is
choice.
Yeah, knowing that it's going to probably progress as fast, if not faster, than Remake means that it won't take long before combat starts feeling better and smoother. I just like feeling like I'm always doing something. I don't like filler.
Let me just question, what's your opinion? I mean, clearly there's going to be a third game, right?
Yeah.
So are you going to start over again?
I don't know. I don't know what their goal is for that. Square Enix hasn't talked much about this third game at all, other than it will exist. That said, I wouldn't be surprised if they did this same thing over again. While I do think it's unfortunate, I do hope that they will keep in mind that they have experienced players coming to this game, and it's probably most of the players that are going to be buying this game have played Remake and or Intergrade at this point. So I would hope that at least the scaling is quick and you get those abilities in Materia a lot faster than you did in Remake. That said, they did add enough that it does not feel as bare bones as Remake did starting off. So you do already have more options in combat at the start of Remake at the start of Rebirth than you did in Remake. So that's combat. The visuals are incredible. The music, as always, is amazing. As I was playing through it, I played through it a few times actually. At least the second half of it a few times because it was honestly incredible. The music, I noted that they had like 4 remixes essentially of the same song as I was going through the woods, getting into combat or having somber moments in cutscenes and dialogue. And it all moved very, they transitioned from these songs, from song to song, like I've never heard in a video game before.
That's cool.
Yeah, incredible transitions in the music. The music was obviously super good. It's Nobuo Uematsu just doing his thing, making incredible music. The remixes that you get from the original game are all great. He had his work cut out for him, trying to top himself from the original soundtrack, and I think he did an awesome job.
That's cool.
Not only has he done lots and lots of remake, like there's like 7 or 8 remixes of some original songs already between the 2 games, but also coming up with totally new songs for the soundtrack. I love the new stuff. The new stuff all sounds amazing. And the old stuff, it's not so remixed that it won't trigger that nostalgia button, because it absolutely will. It feels so familiar, but so new at the same time that it honestly, it hits that nostalgia button hard. So the first demo takes place in the flashback to Nibelheim. So you're climbing up to the Nibelheim Mako reactor and finding Genova and having that spiel with Sephiroth, setting Sephiroth later in Shinra Mansion, finding out about himself and reading about the Genova Project and what ultimately became of him from the Genova Project, and eventually burning down the town of Nibelheim. That is how it ends, is with that like hallmark moment of Sephiroth turning his back to Cloud in the blaze of fire. And it all is amazing. I have very little negative to say about the game, other than the combat starting out not feeling as complete as it did previously. And the name. Really, that's about it. I really enjoyed myself through all of this. I've played through Final Fantasy VII, a 250 million times or so, give or take, give or take 5 or 6.
You used to have a website.
Yeah. I used to own Final Fantasy VII Heaven.
Final Fantasy VII.
Yeah, Final Fantasy VII Heaven.fr.
It had a viewer counter, a web ring.
It did.
And GIFs.
Yes.
And music.
And GameFAQs says that I made the definitive guide to Final Fantasy VII. It was a handwritten guide for Final Fantasy VII. So yeah, I played through it a lot. And this feels new and old at the same time, and I think they've done a great service to the original game. I know most of
all you need is something borrowed and something blue, and then you can marry
right?
it.
Well, no, and at the end of the day, they brought back like all of the big names from Final Fantasy VII to make this game. Like the people that worked on that original project, they're back to make this one, and they're making the game that they set out to in the first place. So, it's just they have more time, they have more budget, they have more technology, and they're using the most of it. I have, another minor complaint. There is some slowdown. I'm using PS5 performance mode in 1080p. In my opinion, I don't think there is any good reason that there should be any slowdown at the lowest resolution the PS5 runs at in performance mode. So I'm choosing FPS over eye candy, which is kind of obvious in some places. The graphics, again, are good. They're excellent. I have nothing to complain about there. But I know that there is an additional step up as far as graphic fidelity goes. I am forsaking that for more frames per second because that's what I prefer in my combat. But there is still some significant slowdown in some places during the demo. Square Enix did put out a statement earlier today that said that they are going to address that in a patch that comes out before the 21st. So the second demo should perform better for people that are using performance mode on their PS5. So yeah, you should be experiencing like nearly always 120 hertz on the PS5 for FF7 Rebirth. It is a minor quibble because it never got that bad, but it does seem like Square Enix is addressing it. So fortunately, they have noticed it. They are addressing it and taking care of it, and it should be good to go in the next week. So yeah, I'm really enjoying my time with it. I might play through it again even before the next demo comes out because I like the combat is awesome. It's more of what I wanted from Remake, and it really is like honoring the source material in the best of ways. So looking forward to playing some more of it. Looking forward to coming out on the 29th. And that's, I mean, it's hard for me to be less glowing about it. I'm trying to be more critical about it, to be honest, but I don't find much to be critical about in the game. It honestly works, and it works really well. So we'll see. There is another demo coming out, and the full game comes out in just 15 days. So I will report back on that after all that's said and done.
Cool beans.
Yeah. Moving on.
Speaking of old games.
Ooh.
Now, it's not the most popular game, but a lot of people have played Half-Life. Especially if you're a PC gamer, you know about Half-Life. And if you're around in that generation of graphics, like, know it or not, it has been printed on your brain.
Oh, yeah.
And recently, I think Valheim was one of the first of this last handful of years to really capitalize on this, but it's becoming more and more clear that the aesthetic of these not quite low poly, but low resolution textures is bringing back this nostalgic feel that is in turn seemingly inciting games that then represent that look. I was completely unprepared for Abiotic Factor. Let me enunciate. I didn't really know what it was about. I actually had it pegged wrong when I heard about it until I sat down and played with my brother. This game is going to be releasing May 2nd, 2024 by Deep Field Games, published by PlayStack, and had a demo during the Steam Next Fest. So I downloaded it. I was going to play with my brother. I was like, hey, there's probably co-op, right? Not only is there co-op, it plays up to 6 players. And not only was it a demo, the demo took us 10 hours to play through. In their feedback that you can fill out at the end of the game, they said this is a mere slice of the game's full content. And having now watched the trailer, I'm seeing a lot of stuff I didn't see in the demo. This game is something else. So imagine you're playing Half-Life and you're John Half-Life, and you're going through Black Mesa Research Facility. You're not the titular main character. You're just some dude. And then the facility goes in lockdown because bad stuff happens, and now there's aliens and weird shit. But you're just a biochemist, and you're 60, and you have a potbelly, and you can't leave. And now you need to survive in this massive internecine complex of a science facility filled with aliens and traps and security bots and the power going out and worrying about having to control your weak old man bladder and feeding yourself and building up a little base. It is a survival crafter, but in the most ridiculous way. And Adam and I had a blast in 99 parts out of 100 of this game. Now, this does come out at an inopportune time. It's something I put in their feedback. It is coming out next month, at the beginning of the month, here in a couple of weeks, fresh off the heels of not only Power World, but Enshrouded, and competing with the likes of Soul Mask and some other survival crafters. Now, that said, this game has really carved out a niche of its own. I've never played the game that felt so much like Half-Life from a different angle, right? This is like that... what was the anime they did both sides of World War II? But it's like that. You're definitely not the hero of this world.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
So yeah, you start in the facility, you start in this cafeteria, and you're crawling around vents like Gordon does. And there's the equivalent of head crabs and dog screechers, but they have their own twist on it. And you play for a few hours, and you eventually get to your first portal, and you go to the world that's a lot like, was it Zen or Zell from Half-Life? And you're like, okay, this is still just very much an homage pastiche to Half-Life. But then later on in the demo, you get sent through a different portal, and you go to Flat Hill, which is a pastiche of Silent Hill, and the entire game changes up. No longer is your crossbow made out of Sharpies, rubber bands, and rulers going to be effective against these 20-foot tall monstrosities leaking in the steam and smoke. It becomes a literal horror game where you have to essentially stealth puzzle your way through these creatures, which great idea, not the greatest implementation. They've gotten a lot of feedback. I've looked it up online about it. Because it's a jarring jump from what you are doing to this.
Sure.
But from what I'm gathering, there are multiple other worlds that you're going to be traveling through using this portal, all the problems in the facility.
Essentially jumping through franchises.
Jumping through franchises of that era,
That's cool.
mid to late 90s, early 2000s. I was growing tomatoes with my own shit as fertilizer because that's all I had. I started throwing in mutated like ham shanks from a beast I killed. Adam and I were hunting down security robots in the middle of the night to build a door hacker. He was wielding a standing like 6 foot tall living room lamp with a dagger tied to the end of it, right? Cool. And I had a pipe that I tied some teeth onto and had a pressure gauge at the end of it. And we're wearing like Citus outfits. We made armor out of the sofa cushions, and it's just everything about the theming of that game it knows exactly what it is. And I absolutely love it. The game is probably, given from the feedback and the reports I've seen, if I had to guess, $20 to $30, which if there is as much content as they're promising, like I legitimately would have paid $10 to play the demo. $10 for 10 hours. And we enjoyed almost every single minute of it. It does have some quality of life features from newer survival crafters that a lot of the older ones don't, like Valheim. It is attempting to do something with the research mechanic where you think up new ideas. So you're like, okay, I want to make a water filter, right? And then it goes through like the items that you've seen before. So like, okay, I've seen rope, I've seen Sharpies, I've seen rubber bands, I've seen plastic tubing, and it gives you a handful of selections. And then based off like the color coding of the items and the outline of the items box, you have to like drag them in to guess at what you need to build the thing. Brilliant, clever idea, executed really poorly, because after you do it twice, you realize you can just like spam them in there until it works. So figure that out more. Like, obviously you don't want to put too many barriers in front of the player to getting new tech, but like I like the idea of like a bunch of egghead scientists trying to think up, oh, we need to make a galactic compressor. We need these ideas.
Right. Eureka.
But yeah, it's just
this fire extinguisher and some PVC and some nails.
That's pretty much what the weapons are, right? Yeah, you're a bunch of old doddering scientists trying to fight aliens. And yeah, I loved it. It does have, it is a survival crafter. You have to worry about hunger and thirst, and you take naps on couches and have little dreams. But they're really light. They're not punishing like they might be in some other games. They're probably equivalent to like Valheim, and like if you're not going into stuff prepared, you're going to have a harder time. But most of them are bars you just have to fill every once in a while. There's even a pooping mini game when you go sit on the toilet. And that mini game gets really terrifying when you're doing it in the middle of the night and the power's gone out and you can hear the security bots roaming around right outside the bathroom. But yeah, I loved it. Probably my most favorite demo of Steam Neck Fest. And I highly recommend you check out Abiotic Factor.
Sounds awesome.
Yeah.
Well, Josh, you have some more awesome ready for us.
I do. So the 6th patch for Baldur's Gate is coming out. Larian is still cranking out the patches here.
It's almost a patch a month.
Yeah, just about.
Yeah.
Now this is actually a fair-sized patch. It's actually going to be about 21 gigs, bringing the total gig space up to about 150. So
Getting large.
she thick.
Yeah, dude.
She thick.
It's almost Warzone thick.
But what's new in the patch?
Pictured as Starian in Warzone. I'm sorry. What about the limit? Okay.
So what's new in the patch is it's Valentine's Day, so there are some new smooches that you can get from your boo at camp.
I was really hoping you were going to say dick physics.
Yeah, no, well, I mean, honestly,
That's a mod.
Why it has to be a mod? Like, why else am I spending 10 minutes making sure my half orc's pecker's right if he ain't going to get a money shot? But in any case. So Halson is going to have a nice little forehead smooch that he can give you after giving you the bare necessities. Y'all know what I mean? There's going to be a cute little hide-and-seek game that you can play with Shadowheart and something that has a little bit different of a tone from Mysterian. So, but every lovable camp NPC is going to have a new way to show you some affection at camp. So that's kind of fun.
Dope.
Now, the big one for me is they're streamlining that party management a little bit, y'all, because I am currently replaying through right now, and that party management is, God, I have to go and tell every person I don't want to be in the party, hey, we can't be friends right now. You have to leave, and then I have to go get the new person to come in. Now, in my opinion, it should literally just be, oh, you're done with camp. Which party members are you bringing with you?
Yep.
But whatever, small steps. So what you're going to be able to do is just go to the new person that you want, ask them to join, and it's going to dismiss somebody. So it's going to be a little more streamlined. So I'm thankful for that. I'll take every step in that right direction. They're also going to be fixing some abilities. The two biggest ones are Shield Bash and Rebuke of the Mighty. They're actually going to have saving throws now, so they'll work.
Oh,
yay.
okay.
That's good. That's good news. That's good news. And then the last little one is sometimes in cutscenes, depending on the cutscene, for whatever reason, even if I'm using my sweet, awesome, customized character, fucking Shadowheart's talking for some reason to the person, and I can't fucking I don't know why.
Are you familiar with the internet's new nickname for her? They call her Shart.
That's lovely.
That took a long time.
It did.
Yeah.
It did. But Larian knows why, and they're fixing that. So unless it's a character-specific cutscene, it's going to be you unless you're using that character to talk. So that is fun. So an NPC isn't accidentally going to steal your limelight. Now, the big question is when does this patch hit? Soon. As soon as this week, perhaps, or next week, but very soon. So
Probably not Blizzard soon.
not Blizzard soon, but
Actually soon.
But actually soon. So that is good news. So Larian is keeping up with the patches and making sure the game's going where it needs to go. So I'm hella stoked, especially considering I'm replaying it right now. So
I'm just blown away they fucking pull it off.
Yeah.
Like, what a fucking hero story.
And continue to do it
Larian.
justice.
yep.
Yeah. It's just a beautiful sight.
It really is.
Yep. Well, we got time. I got one more.
Yeah, totally.
I played quite a few of the demos on Steam Deck Fest. I am very picky. You probably know that about me now.
Picky.
There were a lot of solid demos that I don't feel the need to talk about because they fit that little genre they play in, and they're fine, right? They're not bad.
Yeah.
If I had to pick one more that I was surprised about, mostly because I went into it with grognard consternation, that's a mouthful, was the new game being published by Paradox by the title of Millenia. This being made by C-Prompt Games, which made a game that I was vaguely familiar with a handful of years ago, Heretic Operative, which is essentially a computer version of a very, very specific advanced board game. But this is, on the face of it, essentially Paradox Publishing's version of Civilization.
I think that's what I said when I saw
And for the first 20, 30 minutes you're playing, you're like, what is this doing that Civilization doesn't already do? Why is Paradox making a game that everyone kind of knows is like baby's first 4X game? There's nothing wrong with Civilization. It's fine. It's fun. I have a Civ on my phone. Yeah, I know. I play it frequently, but it is the chips, rice, and Kool-Aid of the 4X world. You will not you will not grow muscle on the diet of something like Civ. It is just really an advanced board game. Once I sunk my teeth into it, they chose a weird timing on the demo. I kind of get it. The demo allows you to play 60 turns, which is not a lot.
Yeah.
In like Civ, most games, you've won, if you're really good, by turn 50 to 100, but normally by like turn 150 to 200, you know the game where it's going. Games might last 200-300 turns, maybe 400 if you set the like time period long. But it's kind of equivalent in its length. So you just start getting out of like the Bronze Age and into the Iron Age when the demo ends. What the game does neat, that I was surprised by, is it's taken a few really choice bits out of things like Humankind, which is the 4X game we all wanted to love, but kind of flopped. It's taken some really choice bits out of Old World. And once it started blooming and you started the ball rolling, I started seeing the potential for this in its replayability, which is where 4X games shine, right? There's a reason I have 2,000 hours in Stellaris, right? There's a reason you have 9 million hours in Europa and all the Crusader Kings, right? You play the same game over and over again, not because you want to perfect a play style or get an achievement, but because you know the game's going to provide you with emergent moments that get you immersed in the game. So how this game works, and they could have done it better in like showing it and explaining it, but as you play, certain things you do start like points. So when you get into your first combat, you get a warfare point, right? Or when your scout discovers a landmark, you get a scouting point. And those points build up over time, and you can spend them like one-off things, like get enough scouting points and you can clear the map a little bit, or get a new free scout, right? Or the Warhammer can reinforce a soldier that's injured, or get a new like militia band in your city. That's the basic stuff. When you're building your city, you do have tiles like in Civ, and you do work them by putting a pop on them. But they get advanced in a much more unique and intricate way. So let's say you have a forest, right? And you can just forage the forest, and it gives you 1 food and 1 production, which is similar to Civ. But you could build a log camp there. And like it takes a little while to build a logging camp, but now you don't produce production or food. You produce timber. And timber can just be converted into 4 production. So suddenly you're making a lot more production, right? But later on, you might get the tech to make a sawmill to turn those into planks, which you can then either form into even more production or sell them for money, right? Using like exporting.
Yeah.
You can hunt deer, and it gives you meat and bones. And the bones can be used for early game jewelry for like culture, but later on they can be used for other things. And you start building up almost like a, not Anno. It's kind of like Anno. What's the other Paradox game? The
Hearts of Iron?
No, the economy-based one.
Oh, I'm blanking. I'm sorry.
Yeah. It's like that. You're building these production chains, which is kind of what Civ is missing. It's missing those little interstitial moments between big upgrades. You have a capital city, and you get culture borders like Civ, but you build towns as like outposts. And they can only reach so far, but it auto connects roads. And then you can build little scouting towers, and the growth of your city actually feels organic, right? It's not like you've got a settler, you just go plop down and suddenly you got a metropolis, right? And all these, there's just little things in the game. Like, I think they actually know what they're doing, right? You know, every once in a while somebody tries to like fight Civ and make a 4X game, and it's usually got some really good points, but then the rest of it kind of falls behind. I don't know if this game is going to be any different, but from what I've seen so far, it does a bunch of neat things. Your tech tree is kind of basic at first. You have, you start off like this Neolithic age, and you can research these things. But whoever is leading the tech race, and depending on the world state, how much combat is going on, how much trade is going on, you actually diverge into different ages. So you go from Neolithic to the age of bronze, but you might go to the age of blood. If everybody's out fighting each other, everybody enters into a different, separate, alternate history tech tree where it's all about defense or offense and combat. Whereas everyone's all exploring landmarks and making diplomatic trades, you enter an age of a golden age, right? And every set step of ages has multiple pathways that can branch, determined by the activities of that particular session that you're playing, which is pretty neat for replayability again. Yeah. They have an Anno-style need system with your city. It's not just make just enough food to survive. Once your town gets to a certain size, you start building housing, and then you need sanitation. And you can provide excess to increase your growth rate, which is an obvious kind of idea that kind of works in some 4X games, but in a lot of games, you make just enough food so that you don't get negatives. Right? Yeah. But with more people comes more problems, right? You start running into actually some malices that become hard to contend with. So it's not a game where obviously just going wide is the answer or going tall. And it's going to depend a lot about what resources you have. But especially that early game, it's slow. And you're really feeling I managed to build a farm. It takes a lot of time. You got to teach these cavemen how to rotate crops and shit, right? But it pays off, and you start getting that ball rolling, explore, expand. And yeah, I played it through once, and I was ready to give up halfway through. I was like, this is just Civ. And then these things started clicking. It got to the point where I actually sat down and played another round knowing what I was knowing. I was like, okay, I think this one might have legs.
Cool.
So keep an eye on it if you like 4X games. I'm glad to see Paradox branching out and publishing games by other developers. We all know how Paradox develop games work. You either have a lot of excess money and don't play them, or you do play them.
Yes. Amen, brother.
Yeah. So yeah, that was Millenia, again, by C-Prompt Games. The release date is coming soon, I'm sure. Given the state I saw the game in, knowing Paradox,
2029?
I would be surprised if it didn't come out Q4 this year. But I guess I could see early next year.
Okay.
Yeah.
Excellent. Well, dude, it's interesting. You talk about the expansion of your Civ, right? Mm-hmm. And how it can help with the growth rate, oversupplying. So much of what you said weirdly reminded me of Black and White. Black and White is obviously way simpler in its mechanics, but having being oversupplied on things like food, your villagers would want to have babies, then that's the next thing you have to fulfill, right? And the key of what I'm saying is it all needs balance, which I think is really cool. Instead of just supplying the minimum of what you need to clear objective, having to do a balance and keep people happy or continue to grow or whatever your objective is I think that also, it sounds like it might also grant to more player divergence in how you play the game as well.
Given how the ages work and how you don't necessarily want to take every tech of every age, because the longer you spend in an age, you're getting a bunch of techs that really help on that age. You're delaying your progression on the next one.
Yeah.
Another cool thing is that your bonuses, starting bonuses, you play as America or China or whatever, you just get to pick your bonus. Oh, cool. I don't know if that's going to change from the demo, but every starting bonus, there's a default one for each Civ, but you can just change it. You can start with a free scout or a bonus to food. They have built in a lot of really cool ways for this game to have replayability. I really, really, really loved Old World. And it was a kind of somebody trying to take Civ and something like Crusader Kings and find a middle ground. Actual named characters with family lineages. You have to worry about your noble court, but you're also kind of playing Civ. I liked it. I didn't love it. And a lot of people just felt like it was the worst of both worlds. Humankind tried to do something similar by like not having you pick a specific civ, and you kind of get to pick a different one from each era. So you might start as like the ancient Sumerians, and by modern day, you're the Americans. But the game had a lot of problems in other places.
Yeah.
This game, you can just like pick America, and it'll give you like the American names for your cities. But you really do feel like when you're progressing through their texts and the way they're described and whatnot, that you're just kind of building your own little,
Your own thing.
Your own thing.
Cool.
I didn't get to see mass combat. You can stack up to multiple units in one tile. It's not the Doom stacks of Civ 4, but you get more and more unit capacity as you go through text. The one problem with the game, besides it's ugly, which I'm sure they'll fix, the combat, weirdest fucking choice. It is automated, like most 4X games are. You have two armies, they compare numbers, they go through a few rounds of combat. But instead of it just being like a little animation on the overworld map like in Civ, it opens up like a 2001 like flash game bad animation, like Heroes of Might and Magic style, where they go back and forth in their low poly and smack each other, and like it plays a little animatic before each one of a flashing screen. It's like, get the fuck rid of that right away.
Yeah,
like, I don't know why they put that in there.
Could be placeholder for something cooler.
Hopefully,
in the demo.
Just do like Civ does. Show my barbarian like clubbing at the opponent who's firing their little slings, and then one of them dies.
Yeah.
I don't have time to watch your 2003 fucking 3D effects fucking animation. That was a weird choice. So far, they're like, I almost felt like it was a joke, but everything else in the game I really like about it. So yeah, you can check it out, Millenia. I don't think it's their first demo. I could be wrong. I might be thinking about another demo I played. Yeah, that one was very cool.
Awesome. Well, hey guys, I think that's it for the evening.
I think so. It might be.
If you can't remember the games we talked about, or their release dates, or the platforms they're on, or anything about what we talked about
you
tonight,
can listen to the podcast again.
You could do that, or check it out. We just go to videogametango.com. It's going to be there in the blog. I appreciate you listening twice. That helps our metrics, but at the same time, I figured I'd make things a little bit easier on you and just throw all the information in the blog. So, head over on to videogametango.com. If you're used to the audio podcast, but you'd like to see our ugly mugs on camera, go over to youtube.com/@videogametango.
We call them Muglies.
Yes. If you normally watch us and you'd rather not see our ugly mugs, you can check us out on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, although they're getting rid of Google Podcasts soon. So
Google gets rid of all of their products eventually.
It's true. Everything will just be YouTube someday.
Yep.
All the options, check out videogametango.com. It has all the options there for you in a handy dandy little wrapper, and it looks neat and pink, and you can check out all of our thumbnails that I spend almost no time on anymore. So I hope you enjoy those. Anywho, that has been this edition of Video Game Tango. I want to thank y'all for being here with us. We should be here next week as well. Same bat time, same bat channel. So we'll see you here on the next one.
Good night.